Good afternoon. It is 4 o'clock on August 15th, 2022, and I happily bring this meeting of the Conway City Council to order. We're so very happy that all of you are here. We will begin with an invocation and pledge of allegiance, being led by Pastor Matt, who is, there he is. I knew I'd seen him earlier from Seacoast Church.
Let's pray. Lord, we come to you today with gratitude. Gratitude for this great city. Gratitude for these great leaders. Lord, you have called them to this to lead. You have set them in place, and we're thankful for them. Lord, we also want to thank you today for all the educators that went back to work, molding minds and impacting the next generation. So Lord, today as we meet, I pray for unity here. I pray that your wisdom, your understanding will speak into every decision made, and that this time would be profitable to us, but glorifying to you. Thank you, God, that you hear our prayers. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and justice for all.
Pastor Matt, thank you so much, especially for coming here repeatedly. We will now entertain a motion to approve the agenda. Mr. White.
May I move that we approve the agenda?
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. Ms. Helms. We have a properly seconded motion to approve the agenda as it is set forth. All in favor, please indicate with a showing of your hand. That motion carries unanimously. And relative to the consent agenda, is there a motion? Mr. Hyman.
Mayor, I'd make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
Thank you. Is there a second? Mr. Jordan, thank you so much. We have a properly seconded motion to also approve the consent agenda. All in favor, please indicate so with a showing of your hand. That motion also carries unanimously. We're now at the point in our meeting where we have public input. This is an opportunity for anyone to approach this council with just about any matter. The exception being anything that refers specifically to a single employee. Of course, that would need to be taken up in a more private venue. You'll be given 5 minutes to speak. I will ask first that you come to the podium, that you speak into the mic, because people in the back of you have a lot of difficulty hearing. And those people who are watching online would want to hear what you're saying. Also, public input is not interactive. If there's a very quick answer that I can provide, I just may do so if I'm tempted to. But for the most part, we will make sure that you know. I know, I just got chill bumps. I'll just make sure that, I don't know what I was saying. But at any rate, we'll make sure that you get the answer that you need, or at least tell you who to call. We have 2 people who we already know are here to speak under public input. The first is Dr. Alan Todd, who I know is present because I've seen him. Would you come forward, please, Dr. Todd?
Hello, everybody, city council members. Thank you. My name, as the mayor said, is Alan Todd. First, congratulations, Melissa. And yeah, I hope this. I'll be short. Okay. I was, as some of you will remember, I was here last council meeting when I heard Reverend Cheryl Moore Adamson speak about the Whittemore Elementary School. Thanking you, as I do, as I'll get to here shortly, for preserving the structure as it is with the hope of making it into something much more. I heard that and it surprised me because I had no idea that that was happening. When I heard it, however, I felt the need to support her because this is something that is the Whittemore Elementary School is something that I've been thinking about as well. And this is for a different project, which I will keep for another meeting. However, when she spoke about Whittemore, I was moved to say, yes, absolutely, the structure is incredible because I also mentioned last meeting, I'm a professor at Coastal and I specialize in archaeology. What I do in archaeology is look at in Israel, right? So the buildings I look at are ancient, sometimes 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 years old, which also requires me to be trained in understanding how structures are built, right? And so even though I do ancient stuff, I do also have kind of at least a modicum of understanding of how structures are built to last. And I truly believe Whittemore Elementary is built to last. It's incredible. When she asked though last week for the plywood, I should say, what occurred to me in between then and now is I have plywood. I have lots of plywood. I don't know if I have all the amount needed, but I'm convinced I can acquire plywood needed. As a member of Whittemore Waste Path Historical Society now, then I ask you all, or at least present this idea along the lines of how we might go about getting the plywood I have to use on the windows as the community decides how to figure out what to do and reconstruct the building. So I wanted to mention that, and I thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Todd. I'm sure we'll be in touch with you about that. I also know that Brad Parnell has asked to speak under public input. If you'd come forward, please. How do you do?
Doing well, doing well. Thank you for your time. I was here to speak towards an item on the agenda later today. I guess the request from Peggy Jones to rezone a piece of property on Forest View Road in Conway.
Give me just a second. Let me
Yes,
find
ma'am.
out if there's a public input. Now's the time. Please go
Okay.
right ahead.
Okay.
Thank you.
Myself and my wife, I guess our family, we live in the home that our driveway is straight across from the front yard of that property. Just wanted to go on record that we are opposed to the rezoning of it to professional. Since the fire occurred there 5 years ago, we've lived through squatters living in that home. People that would live in the home have hidden behind bushes to watch my wife and children get in the car to go to school, come home from school, things of that nature. And it's just been an ongoing thing for the past 5 years. So just wanted to take the opportunity for you to have a face of the family that's been going through dealing with the situation that has revolved around that home over the past 5 years. It's our desire to see it stay residential and to be turned into a home that a family could live in, not turned into a professional property that could bring a business into our residential neighborhood with even more traffic, even more unfamiliar people, right across from our driveway. So I won't take up any more of your time, but I just wanted to put a face with that item on the agenda and just briefly share, some of the problems that it's created for my family. It was the condition of the home right now. We live in town up the street from the police station, and we don't even feel comfortable letting our kids play in the front yard with us out without us being outside with them. So, but I appreciate your time and hope you all have a very good and blessed afternoon.
Thank you. Mr. Parnell, would
Yes,
you
ma'am.
please repeat the address?
My
that property?
address,
That'd be fine. Yes.
my address is 1102 Buck Street. And I don't remember the address of the other property off the top.
But you're adjacent to it.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much for being here. Is there anyone else who would like to speak under public input? Mr. Mr. Goldfitch,
Mayor, I move that we close public input at this time.
is there a second? Mr. Hyman,
I'll second Mr. Goldfinch's motion.
we have a properly seconded motion to close public input at this time. All in favor, please indicate so by showing your hand. And that motion carries unanimously. Item 6 is a special presentation. A presentation of a resolution declaring August 16th, 2022. I want to cry. You better not. Yes, Melissa Jefferson Day in the city of Conway. If you would please join me over here. And at some point, I'm going to ask her coaches and her family and everybody else to join me, but. I waited so for this moment. Not to disappoint you, may I touch it?
Oh, thanks.
No. It is just true, and the more I read and hear about this young woman, my whole view of what a star is has just grown incredibly because of what you've done and how you represented us so well. So I'll read this resolution from in state of South Carolina, County of Horry, City of Conway. A resolution to honor and celebrate the athletic prowess and acclaim in track and field earned by Coastal Carolina University student and star Melissa Jefferson. Whereas Melissa Jefferson was born with God-given talents that she honed and perfected through self-discipline and persistent hard work in the pursuit of personal excellence. This 5'3", tiny framed, intensely capable young woman from Hemingway, South Carolina, has earned a place on the world stage as a formidable champion of track and field. And whereas Melissa attended Carvers Bay High School, where she was an impressive track athlete, selected 4 times all region, 4 times all state, and 4 times most valuable player in track and field, winning the state title in the 100 meter and in her senior season. And whereas during Melissa's 2021 season as a Coastal Carolina University athlete, she established new records for the university in the 200 meter run 4 times, the last of which she ran a 22.95 in the NCAA East preliminaries, and in the 100 meter at the Sun Belt Championships running an 11.22. Melissa was also named the 2021 Sun Belt Newcomer of the Year, 2021 Most Outstanding Freshman, and 2021 Most Outstanding Track Athlete. And whereas further proving her superior athleticism in track and field, Melissa was named the 2022 Sun Belt Conference champion in the 20 meter and 200 meter indoors. She is also the 2022 NCAA Division I national champion in the 60 meter indoors, the 2022 Sun Belt Conference champion in the 100 meter, 200 meter, and 4x100 meter relay world champion, and the U.S. track and field national champion in the 100 meter. Good Lord. And whereas Melissa reached the pinnacle of excellence at the 2022 World Athletics Championships in Eugene, Oregon, she and partners Abby Steiner, Jenna Pradini, and Twanisha Terry scored 41.4, the best recorded score in the world. She is the best on the planet, and she's ours. Therefore, be it resolved that the City Council and Mayor of Conway, South Carolina hereby delegate tomorrow, August 16th, because we want you to have a whole day, honey. We resolve that tomorrow, August 16th, 2022, be Melissa Jefferson Day in the city of Conway and beyond. We encourage our residents and others to honor Melissa Jefferson for her phenomenal athletic accomplishments and for illuminating the light that shines on Coastal Carolina University and the city of Conway, South Carolina. This has been signed by all the members of the city council and yours truly, and attested by our clerk, Ms. Alicia Shelley. And congratulations. Based on this come on this so I don't know the order, it doesn't matter to me. Anybody who wants to discover this, please, can I definitely come here, so I mean, I don't have another order, but I think we can get some shots of the people who in my family. I'm really sick of that, but we want to see their time and want to.
I know they've had been very flat. I know it's time to be cold. Take a look at that. All of our time is right there. With the oh. They don't have to look. So we have another track and oh. May I just on behalf of the we're joined by many of our university family. And I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge our head coach, Coach Fowler, who's put together an unbelievable program at the university that was built by her predecessor, Alan Connie. We have, of course, a track meet every year in his honor, and Coach Carl Goodman, who recruited Melissa and has trained and mentored and worked with her. And I know she gives credit to God, rightly so, and her ability, her innate ability, but that takes coaching. And I want to especially recognize those two. What Melissa has done for our university is hard to put into words. I was up in Oregon and I saw that she didn't do quite as well at the NCAAs as she wanted to. And Coach Connie turned to me and he said, we're going to find out what Melissa's made of. And 2 weeks later, she goes back and she beats 8 other runners to win the national championship in the 100 meters. And if I'll end with this, if you haven't had a chance to watch the 4x100 at the Worlds, listen to the commentators, because if you know track and field, that first turn when you have to make up the stagger, that's why they put Melissa at first. And as they said it, she killed it. She killed it. And she ran the fastest of any leg, and they beat the Jamaicans, which never happens. And to hear Melissa tell the story, I just can't thank you enough, Melissa. And to your mom and dad, we thank you for raising such an amazing young woman. And she'll always be a Chanticleer. I know she's got great things ahead of her. She's turned professional. She's signed with Nike. Don't forget the Chanticleers, Melissa. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, absolutely. So would the people in the athletic community at Coastal Carolina come and take a photo with her, please? Okay. We just need to get family and we'll move on with our meeting. I know that time is passing, but this is important. First, just our mom and dad, and then we'll get the rest of the family. Oh, absolutely. I'll be proud to. One final round of applause for our champion. If anybody's wondering, I'm just gonna keep that at home to remind me. I'm joking, I'm joking. There's something that needs to be corrected. We'll take care of that. So we ought to just end this meeting now and we'll all be in a good place. Item B is a discussion of a request to annex approximately 3 9500 acres located at 220 University Plaza Drive. PINs 383-140-10007, 383-140-10008, and 383-110-40026, and 1 8900 acres located at 107 University Plaza Drive, PIN 383-140-10017, and zone all properties to City of Conway Highway Commercial. Ms. Harden.
Not quite as exciting as what we just went through, but exciting still the same. I am that geek that gets excited about annexations. This is a proposed annexation of property off of Highway 501 as stated of University Plaza Drive. It's shown on the screen, and I beg your pardon, Councilman White, I forgot to put the markers on here that show that this is the Lowe's property on 501, Lowe's Construction. The Food Line Plaza is in this area as well. Conway Hospital, Conway Regional Medical Center off of Singleton Ridge Road is behind it. And there are other offices and restaurants in front of this property as well. So this is in that area of Singleton Ridge and University Plaza off of Highway 501. Currently not inside the city limits and proposing to come into the limits with this joint application. The current zoning around the area varies between planned unit development, highway commercial, and institutional. The institutional is in the dark blue. Highway commercial is in the red. We have a lot of highway commercial along 501 because it's appropriate to put it there. And this rezoning would be also this annexation would have a rezoning along with it to change to the city of Conway Highway Commercial. It's currently in the county as Highway Commercial. Our future land use map did not envision this area in the last 10 years. But when we do go through the process for annexation, we will be amending the future land use map along with it to indicate the uses that are proposed for there in the highway commercial zone. Because this is a discussion, this is being held prior to the public hearing. I wanted to give everyone in the audience and the council as well an idea of why, when we are asking for highway commercial, what that means. The description in the UDO is that the intent of the highway commercial district is to provide comparable locations to serve automobile-oriented commercial activities in harmony with major highway development, reduce traffic congestions, and enhance the aesthetic atmosphere of the city. As the area where this is proposed to go is already zoned highway commercial in the county and nearby highway commercial uses in the city. So far, staff has not had an issue with the proposed zoning. Our next steps, we did send out 28 letters to property owners within 200 feet of the property. Legal ad is being run 15 days prior to the public hearing on September 1st. Signs are posted. And so far, we've received no emails or conversations from the public about this. The letters were sent last week. So sometimes it's possible that we will have already received information, but at this point, we have not. The public hearing will be held September 1st. It is very close to your next meeting. Only if we have a good indication that we can go forward and there's not a public outcry, then we may be able to get it on your next agenda. But if not, it will be on your September 19th for first reading, if the schedule is not able to be fulfilled.
Thank you so much, Ms. Harden. Are there comments or questions from the council? Mr. White?
Yes, sir.
And you do have it marked, the map.
Oh, I did map. Okay, thank you. I apologize.
On some pages. My other question is, did 200 feet become the magic numbers and how far out we send letters?
It's just
It's just the standard that's been the standard.
I will tell you in the
for as
history of
long as I can remember.
other communities, it is about the distance of a city block. In some communities, that city block is 200, some 300. The standard in some of the addressing coordination is 400. So it is up to the local municipality. It's not a state requirement. It is something we do above and beyond the state requirements for public notice on annexations and rezonings. That helps bring it to the attention of property owners, because not everybody that owns property adjacent to it lives in the area, but still needs to be aware.
Anyone else? Thank you so much, Ms. Harden. We'll go on to item C. Discussion of a request from Charles Miriam Jr. to annex 25 hundredths of an acre located at 1621 Church Street, PIN 33810030016. And feel free to leave if you'd like. We'd rather you stay, but we know that you've got lives going on.
Copy the agenda.
Ms. Harden, pardon me just a minute.
No, you're
please.
fine.
We'll give everybody a chance to settle. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Thank you. Congratulations, Ms. Jefferson. Don't forget us. I'll begin again. Item C, discussion of a request from Charles Miriam Jr. to annex 25 hundredths acres located at 1621 Church Street, PIN 33810030016, and rezone from Horry County Highway Commercial to City of Conway Highway Commercial. Ms. Harden.
Yes, ma'am, Your Honor. This is a piece of property that is on Church Street, really in the middle of a lot of the business activity that happens on 501 in the Conway area. It is located between the new Bojangles and the old Bojangles. Currently has a business entity on it, but that will be taken away if this application is approved. The current zoning in the area is highway commercial in the county, but as you can see by the large red blob in the middle, it's surrounded by other highway commercial uses that are already in the city limits. So this is a real true donut hole. It is right in the middle of everything, but it's not in our jurisdiction. We're looking forward to closing this one, and we'll look forward to close more in the future. Future land use map shows purple uses as highway commercial, and that is what is being requested. So the request is in line with the comprehensive plan. As I discussed earlier, highway commercials provide compatible locations to serve automobile-oriented commercial activities. The proposed use on this is a oil change for vehicles. And so that would be in line with the highway commercial. 17 letters sent to property owners within 200 feet. Legal ad will run. Again, we'll have the same process as this. We have the opportunity, if there's no outcry, if there is some concern, we will hold on and bring it to you after the public hearing as such. No information has been received from the public, or no questions or comments have been received from the public to date.
Thank you so much, Ms. Harden. Are there questions or comments from council? We'll move forward. Item D, discussion of a request from Mungo Homes to annex approximately 17 and 71 acres located at the intersection of Highway 813 and Highway 65, PIN 32400000036, and rezone from Horry County Single Family Residential to City of Conway Low to Medium Density Residential. Ms. Harden.
Yes, ma'am, Your Honor. Usually we bring R1 zonings to you directly, but this is proposed to be a large subdivision. And so the Planning Commission will also get an opportunity to hold a public hearing on this. The property is off of Light Road and at the intersection of Highway 65 and 813, as you mentioned. This became contiguous as of a annexation that you accepted a few months ago, also off Light Road for another single family subdivision. This is in our surface area. That annexation was graded from a rural residential up to the R1, but this one actually matches the request. So right now it matches everything in the comp plan for that. It's in our service area because we have areas beyond it already zoned and annexed into the city. This is a little bit of a cover in between the two. Low medium residential R1 typically focuses on single family residential and a few accessory uses that would be allowed in those areas. You can think about a church or a school that might be allowed in a neighborhood. 8 letters sent to the property, neighboring property owners, no information received, same process as the last 2 that we discussed.
Thank you so much, Ms. Harden. Are there questions or comments? Yes, sir, Mr. White.
And is this not in the area where St. Paul Missionary Baptist Church is? Yes. Where they notify this one?
Yes.
I think they're across the street, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, they would have received notice.
So that means that the city limits what's the other, 813 is coming towards 701 North on 65 and is already, wow, that's incredible.
As you can see on the current zoning, everything in the tan is already in the city limits. And the property that is proposed to be rezoned is actually closer to the city core instead of going out further. So
Right,
we're
absolutely.
collecting things from the outside in.
Yes. Anyone else? Ms. Butler?
Correct. The actual corner itself, as you can see in this map, is not part of the request. The corner that, I believe the corner you're speaking of is this here. Yes, ma'am. So that is not part of the property that is owned by the applicant. Thank you for checking in on that.
Anyone else? Ms. Harden, thank you very much. We'll move forward to item E. Discussion of a proposal to amend the Rivertown Landing Plan District to expand the list of permitted uses on commercial lot A off Community Drive. PIN 337-05010006. Ms. Harden.
Yes, ma'am, Your Honor. This is a amendment for the Rivertown Landing Plan District. It's also been called Carson's Ferry. It's got Rivertown Row or portion of that. The current zoning in this area, you can see the boundary of the property that's targeted for the change in the plan development is outlined in light blue. And there are highway commercial uses up and down Highway 501 North Church Street in this vicinity. And the applicant is asking for opening up of the uses. In the previous iterations of the plan development, there was a limited list on what could go on the property. The applicant has an idea to place a different type of market on the property and wants to open up the PUD, or excuse me, the PD zoning to allow all the uses that would be allowed in highway commercial on this lot. It is the last commercial, purely commercial lot in the PD and has to remain as a commercial use. So it is not outside the realm of request to allow other types of uses. Staff will be evaluating it and providing you with input. 7 letters were sent to the property owners within 200 feet, and the same process will go through.
Thank you so much, Ms. Harden. Are there questions or comments from the council? There being none, thank you so much. We will move then to item F. Discussion of a proposal to amend the Ecclesia Church Planned District to expand the permitted uses for the Miller Mott Building at 2451 East Highway 501, PIN 38311030004, and the Canal Industries Facility, known as the Hub, at 2431 East Highway 501, PIN 38311040025. Ms. Harden.
Yes, ma'am, Your Honor. These are properties that abut the 501 corridor and are included in the Ecclesia plan development. As a refresher, we have a lot of churches in plan developments because they will often have uses that don't particularly fit just the residential neighborhood. They may want to have a daycare or a school that would be outside of the realm of just an R1 zoning. So they have been given a plan development. In the particulars for this, there are 2 buildings the Ecclesia Church owns that they have tenants they'd like to install into the buildings. And the uses that are proposed are not ones that are allowed in the plan development. So as with the previous request, this request is asking for the uses that we allowed in the highway commercial to be allowed in the Miller Mott and the Hub building. Miller Mott is still a tenant in the building, is the last of my knowledge, and it was written in that way that they could maintain that tenancy, that if they became, if they were not a tenant anymore, that the church could replace them. But there was a limited list, and this would allow them to have a more concrete list that comes straight from our zoning.
Thank you so much. Are there comments or questions from the council? There being none. Thank you so much. You're doing a great job, Ms. Harden. Item 7, public hearing and second reading of ordinance ZA 2022-0815D to amend Article 6 Design Standards of Unified Development Ordinance to increase the maximum height limit for parcels zoned highway commercial in the Gateway Corridor overlay along Highway 501 from Lake Busby to Carolina Forest Boulevard. Ms. Harden.
Yes, ma'am. This is a public hearing and a request for second reading if there is no objection at the public hearing for the amendment to the UDO to ask for a height amendment to the areas as specified. Some of the questions we received from the public is, does this include the downtown? This does not. The parcels that are covered under this text amendment are limited to the ones that are on 501 in the highway commercial zone and under the GCO overlay or the Gateway Corridor overlay. And those would be limited. It would be limited to apply to those parcels. Parcels that are along 501 in those areas, the 501 corridor is very large. It can accept larger buildings on either side. They're transportation oriented, they're automobile oriented, and allowing for hotels to go up to 65 feet is a proper edit for this area.
Do you know of other parcels that are not R1, for example, or not the historic downtown that might also benefit from that height?
We could do an evaluation on that for sure. I'm not prepared to answer that as much upfront.
We are seeing that one of the impediments to our development of hotels in the city is the height limitation or the height limitation we have now. I think it probably would behoove us to come back to you at a future date with some amendments to other zoning districts that we're seeing interest in developing hotels, but limitations on that. I don't think we can do it today. Given.
Because it's so specific.
Yeah, and given the
Specific.
fact that we've said prior that this would not affect downtown, we want to make sure that we don't.
Absolutely, absolutely. That makes sense.
So this is just very specific.
Mr. Hyman.
We had this come up before when we were in discussions about the condos down there. And I think we were unanimous then. I know that there was a different board or a different council then, but I think we were unanimous then on allowing that to be raised. It just seems like instead of it keeping coming back, you may want to look at certain districts and say, yeah, this is okay.
I don't want to speak over Allison here, but we've never had a problem with height in the city, and I don't know that we ever will. I think anyone asking for a use which would require a higher height limit is probably going to be something that you would want in that area. I'm trying to think of anything that we might get that would ask for 4 or 5 or 6 stories that you would not want already in the city. And although it's theoretically possible, I don't know what that would be. So what we'll do is we'll look at a sort of a holistic approach and come back to you with where we think it would benefit the city.
From a design standpoint, I've always heard it said that elevators are expensive. A 10-story elevator costs the same as a 2-story elevator. But I don't think you can get the return on a 2-story.
We also need to take into account how much the fire apparatus to get to that 10th floor would be, and if we have the ability.
I just
Yeah.
said, I understand, what is it, 65 feet?
Yeah, no, definitely we have an interest in the market and we have an interest in looking at it for you. We'll look at that in relation to the lot size, the parking and the other types of amenities that are required. Because we've had some really good discussions with developers in the last couple of weeks, and we'd like to move on forward on that with your permission.
Good. So for the time being, we will discuss this relative to what is written in the.
This will be the
District paper.
taste, then we'll get to the
Yes.
full palette later.
Absolutely, absolutely. Any other comments or questions from council? This is also a public hearing. Thank you so much for the reminder. Is there anyone present this afternoon who would like to speak either in favor of or against this change for the city of Conway? We welcome your comments. Mr. Goldfinch.
Mayor, I move to close public input.
Thank you. Is there a second? Mr. Hyman?
I'll second Mr. Goldfinch's motion.
We have a properly seconded motion to close public input, close the public hearing in this matter. All in favor, please indicate so with a showing of your hand. Motion carries unanimously. Item 8, first reading.
You
Okay,
need
I'm
to-
so sorry. I'm so sorry. Yes, please, Mr. Goldfinch.
Mayor, I move that we approve second reading of said ordinance.
Thank you. Is there a second? Ms. Helms. We have a properly seconded motion to approve second reading of this hearing. Is there any further discussion? There being none, all in favor, please indicate your approval with showing your hand. Motion carries unanimously. Now, item 8, first reading A. First reading of ordinance ZA 2022-0906A from your neighborhood child development center to rezone approximately 3.5 acres of property located on Krill Street, PIN 369-0502-0006 from professional to neighborhood commercial. Commercial is hard.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Skinner? Yes, Mr. Skinner is here. The applicant is here, and the applicant did attend the public hearing as well. The property that's in question is around 1003 Creel Street. This is a 3.5 acre tract of property that the city council annexed last year. At the time that it was annexed, it's across, now it's across from a daycare center. But at the time it was annexed in to provide an expansion for the daycare center, which is a use that would be allowed in the P zone. The P zone, the professional zoning, is shown in blue on the current zoning map. There was P zoning adjacent to the property at that time. And the annexation went through with the P zoning as the permitted use. Since that time, the applicant has discussed the uses on the property with neighboring neighbors and asked to come forward with a plan for a laundromat. A laundromat use is not allowed in the professional zone. However, it would be allowed in a neighborhood commercial zone. Neighborhood commercial zones in the current zoning map are shown as pink, and might see that there's no other neighborhood commercial zones around the area, but 3.5 acres is enough acreage to create one. In this particular future land use map, the future land use map identifies the area as professional, and it did so at the time of the annexation, which is part of the reason that the staff recommended approval of the rezone or the zoning to P at that time. A Google Street View of the property at 2019 shows the site was a very wooded site. The daycare center is on the right-hand side. Just before the daycare center is one of the many apartment units that are in the vicinity of this property that I believe Mr. Skinner was looking for, providing a service for. We had a zoning discussion at the public hearing, which was held on August 4th. We talked about what is allowed in the P zone and what is allowed in the NC zone or the neighborhood commercial zone. In your packet was a comparison chart showing the different types of uses that are allowed in each zone. To provide a oversimplified summary on the screen, the P zoning has residential uses allowed, very limited commercial uses, and then also office uses, because P as professional is indicated more for office and auxiliary uses there. The neighborhood commercial zone is focused on commercial uses because it's got commercial in the name. It's meant to be a neighborhood service area, a place where people could go to find services that they need, so they don't have to go into a regional shopping area. There are no residential uses in a neighborhood commercial zone, and there's more personal and food related uses, and several retail uses are allowed in the neighborhood commercial. When we brought this up and sent out letters to the property owners within 200 feet, we did run a legal ad sign was posted on site. We received 14 letters, of which were attached to your packet. All 14 were in opposition. Additionally, 5 people spoke in opposition at the public hearing on 8/4. Mr. Skinner also explained his ideas and discussed it with the Planning Commission. After the Planning Commission opened the floor for public input and closed it, they deliberated and came up with a recommendation of denial for the request on a 4-1 vote.
Thank you so much, Ms. Harden. I can just speak for myself. I recognize that there's a huge residential population on Krill Street that might in fact benefit well from a laundromat. But the concern that I have is once it's no longer a laundromat, it just opens it up for so many other kinds of uses.
I believe at the public hearing, the many people said they have no doubt of Mr. Skinner's good intentions. But they also know that down the road, there may be another owner, and that owner may not be as intended on being neighborhood friendly. So we do also look down the road.
Thank you, Mr. Hyman.
Neighborhood commercial, I mean, it looks like, am I right, that bars, nightclubs, that kind of stuff could be in
Yes, sir.
neighborhood commercial?
Neighborhood commercial does allow for bars and nightclubs. However, there is a distance requirement in the state before any alcohol uses that may or may not be met by this distance from the neighborhood. There is a neighborhood directly behind. There's a church property adjacent to it, but the church property, if I remember correctly, is mostly social service offices and other entities. I may be incorrect, but it is owned by Mason Temple, but the Social Security office is there. There's a mental health facility there. There's other
A legal
offices there,
office.
legal office there, yeah, legal aid. I think the Boys and Girls Club of Conway is listed as being in that area. So that I'm not quite sure at what part the church has an actual placement there other than providing service that are available to the community.
I don't think any part of it is considered a church.
The professional zoning allows for, the only residential allows for is assisted living, congregate housing, group homes and the like. It does allow for daycare centers in many different levels. Allows for education and public safety. Then going into professional services, all of the professional offices that we have allowed in the zoning code are allowed in the P zone. Real estate, insurance, law firms, architects, brokerages, medical and clinical offices, charitable institutions, et cetera. There are few personal services and food services allowed. But let me rephrase this. The question about bar and nightclub, it is not listed as a permitted use in the professional zone.
Outside
but
neighborhood
in
commercial.
neighborhood
Neighborhood
commercial.
commercials. I'm sorry. I'm looking at the wrong one. Back up. Sorry. I have so many, but yes, it is. You're right.
Yep.
Absolutely right. So, we have a lot of different uses allowed in the neighborhood commercial that's not allowed in the, P professional zone.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions or comments before we? Yes, sir, Mr. White.
Is there any other zoning area that he could be in to open the market?
Any other zoning that would fit? There are other zones that would allow it, but I don't think that they're a good fit.
Well, also, spoke to a couple of the residents that live in that area. And they, one was in the housing development and two of the neighbors that live down the street on Creel Street. And they had no opposition to this, just wanted to make that.
Sure. We did see a lot of input from folks from the Oak Glen neighborhood. We had some from Rosehaven come in. Some of the concerns that they had weren't necessarily about the rezoning, but about the potential use and the kind of people that would come into their neighborhood that might not have been there before, and the time that they spend there. There was also some concerns about traffic going through on Creel Street between 4th Avenue and Rosehaven, but that was not relevant to our rezoning discussion.
I wonder what there is in particular about a laundromat that would make it disallowed. I know our zoning is very specific and it says that that doesn't fit there. How often do we revisit?
From time to time. I think the reason, and I'm sorry, Allison.
No, I can,
Go ahead.
yeah, the best I can tell you is that laundromats are oftentimes out of sync with the operations of professional offices that the professional zone has. Professional zone is is focused in on offices that are typically open 8 to 5 or 8 to 9 or 8 to 8, 6, Monday through Friday with very little weekend operation. Mr. Skinner is proposing a laundromat that'll be open about 12 hours a day for 7 days a week. The intent again was to provide the neighborhood service. The folks that were there said that there are other laundromats within driving range. And then it becomes who can drive and who can't. So.
Sure. Mr. Goldfinch.
That's sort of the rabbit hole I was going down. There's no issue, I don't think, with the laundromat. The issue is when the laundromat's no longer there and it becomes a bar. And I wouldn't want that in my neighborhood. I get that. So my question is, and this is for another day, but should we entertain the idea of looking at creating another zoning district that would allow for such applications so that we're not in this quandary because it doesn't fit in professional. We don't want it neighborhood commercial because of what it could be. So is there a way to create something in the middle that speaks to not only the use, but the times of use? So as not to be an issue with the neighborhood and residences rather.
I think that's very well put, because we're talking about a service that we believe to be beneficial to a community, but just because of some particulars, doesn't fit the zoning that's being requested.
Consider though that neighborhood commercial is already that in-between zoning district between highway commercial and residential or professional. It already is that in between. Perhaps the other consideration would be to remove some of the uses from neighborhood commercial rather than create a new district.
I would just say, think about it, stew on it, but a laundromat is an essential business, like a drugstore or a grocery store. A bar is not.
Would it be amenable for the council to have part of the discussion being a limitation on hours of operation? Or minimizing the impact to the neighboring homes in the area?
And we would have to look at that in sync with whatever other considerations there are between highway and neighborhood commercial.
Yeah.
I believe that is one of them, but I don't think that's the only one. So
Neighborhood, yeah, I
Yeah.
beg your pardon.
but we've got some good minds,
Right.
staff and council, and I don't disagree with Mr. Goldfinch at all. There's no reason why there can't be another designation that allows for childcare and laundromats, but still couldn't turn into a bar. We'll see. Anyway, I'll call the vote. Is there anyone else? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to speak too quickly. Well,
You don't have a vote.
do we have a motion? We don't have a motion.
No, we were just
Yes.
talking.
That's right. All right. So is there a motion relative to the request that is before us? I'm sorry, sir. I can't have you speak now. Mr. White,
I know that we allow the laundromat.
you allow, so what you're saying is that we allow the change of zoning to neighborhood commercial. I mean, to neighborhood commercial. Is there a second? Motion fails for lack of a second, Mr. White.
If you would like to continue the item or discuss it at another date when we can come back, you can defer it, although I don't know what Mr. Skinner's development calendar is, but if you want to defer this request until we can come up with a different solution, that is always an option. Or if you deny it today, Mr. Skinner will not be able to come back with another request for 12 months.
For 12 months. Right, we have,
No.
right, but
Right.
I think you're assuming that we might.
Well, if there's not a vote to approve, then the next option is, what are your next options?
Right, exactly.
So it's to defer or to deny.
The request can fail for lack of a motion, in which case it would not be approved.
Would that put him in the same quandary?
I
though,
think
to
he
not
could
be able to
then, I
come
think
back
he
with-
could then come back within that 12-month period because he's never received a denial.
Okay. Well, and Nick, say it again, please.
If there's not a motion, then it would fail for lack of a motion.
Okay, there is no motion. So the request fails for lack of a motion, which allows Mr. Skinner and the city to continue this conversation and hopefully come up with a reasonable solution.
We'll work with Mr. Skinner.
Thank you so much. This is the first time this has ever happened since I've been on council. All right, item B. First reading of ordinance ZA 2022-0906 B and ZA 2022-0906 C to annex approximately 1 acres of property located on Highway 378, PINs 33715010010 and 33715010017, and rezone from Horry County Highway Commercial to City of Conway Highway Commercial. Ms. Hardman.
Thank you, ma'am. These two properties came in as two separate annexations because of the different ownership and PIN number, but we have them discussed as the same because they were originally one piece of property. They're both located in the same area and have the same impact. Okay, so I'll go forward. Do you want me to continue?
We may just allow them a chance to leave and we'll settle again. Thank you for asking. Thank you for being here.
All right, good. So at the public hearing, we discussed the properties. They're currently located adjacent to the Coastal Community Church, Richardson and Richardson, and near the entry or at the entry of Michaela Acres. The current zoning in that area in the city limits is primarily R1 or highway commercial. R1 on the left is shown in the beige, the dark red is the highway commercial. The request is to have the two properties go to highway commercial. Future land use also indicates that these two properties should be highway commercial. And so that is in line with the comp plan. One thing I want to point out is on the maps, you may see that there's a hashed area here. And if you're curious about that, that is where the future extension of El Bethel will come into play with Highway 378. So this property will be very close to it. We have a official map amendment that says if anything goes on in that corridor, we have to stop and reevaluate, and make sure it's not impeding the road, but this is outside of that area. Street view on the subject property, the church is on the left-hand side of the screen. So this is one half of the property. Looking to the right, this is the other half of the property with Richardson and Richardson to the side. Across the street is suburban propane storage yard and some heavy equipment storage across the highway 378. We sent 8 letters to property owners within 200 feet of the proposed change. The sign was posted on site. Legal ad was ran. We did not receive any letters or email, but we did receive 3 folks at the public hearing who spoke in opposition. They were concerned about the uses of highway commercial on the site and concerned about removing the trees. We did indicate to them that it's already zoned highway commercial in the county, and that any development on there would create a issue where trees would come down because they're primarily pine trees. Yes, sir.
Mayor, I was going to move that we approve first.
Mr. Hyman,
I'll second Mr. Goldfinch's motion.
we have a properly seconded motion to approve first reading. Is there any discussion or are there questions? Being none, we'll call a vote. All in favor, please indicate with the showing of your hand. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much, Ms. Harden. I'm so sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought your hand was up with everybody else's. I'm sorry.
Was that-
So let me just restate that. The motion was not unanimous. 6 members of the council voted in favor of, and Mr. White voted against.
Thank you.
Did I get that right? Thank you. Item C, first reading of ordinance ZA 2022-0906D from Peggy J. Jones to rezone approximately 3,300 acres of property located at 1312 Forest View Road, PIN 33814010030 from low density, single family residential to professional.
This is the application that Mr. Parnell spoke to you about in public discussion. This is a proposed rezoning for 1312 Forest View. As you can see on the screen, it's very close to Highway 501 and Church Street in the vicinity of the Pine Street intersection. There are several neighborhoods around it: Buckwood, Highland Park, Collinswood, Pinewood Circle. It's close to Conway Middle School as well. The current zoning on the property is R1, single family residential. Mr. Parnell indicated he lived on Buck Street. Buck Street is this road that comes right down across from the property here, and is in the vicinity. There's other smaller streets, and Pine Street is at the end there. The current zoning though is R1. It does abut professional zoning. Professional zoning is along 13th Avenue as a buffer between the highway commercial that goes into the Central Park and to the areas in that intersection. And then there's residential. There's also professional zoning that buffers on the south side near to 9th Avenue. And then of course, some dark red highway commercial along the path here. Future land use indicates this should stay as a residential use. Site photos were given, site history was given. We have a history with the property having some challenges, as Mr. Parnell discussed. So we provided that information to the Planning Commission. We talked about it at the Planning Commission, the difference between the R1 zoning and the P zoning. Limited to single family residentials for R1. P zoning has some residential uses, professional uses, and limited commercial uses. The public outreach was 13 letters sent to property owners within 200 feet of the proposed change. We received 9 letters in response. All were in opposition. Another 3 people spoke in opposition at the public hearing, at which the Planning Commission discussed and deliberated and recommended denial of the request on 4-1.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Goldfinch.
Mayor, I move that we deny the request for rezoning for said property.
I'll second Mr. Goldfinch's motion. Is there any discussion? There being none, call a vote. All in favor, please indicate your approval of the said motion with the showing of your hand. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Ms. Harden, you just earned your pay today. Item 9.
Sleep well today.
Consideration of a hotel incentive application from Waccamaw Hotel LP for a proposed Fairfield by Marriott 2061 Highway 501, PIN 38307010008. Ms. Dennis,
Good
Are you?
afternoon. I'm good. How are you?
good, thank you.
As you said, this is for the Waccamaw Hotel, doing business as Fairfield by Marriott. They deferred or requested a deferral, which you guys approved. They are now going to be eligible for the 7-year amendment that was approved on the consent agenda, item D. So it would be 7 years of hospitality tax, 7 years of property tax, a 15-day review period. This is already under construction, but that would apply for if there's any plan revisions during the construction period. So
I don't know quite how to pose this question. At what point would that be understood that the new provision for 7 years would be in place?
So if it was approved tonight, so if they apply within the next year for the incentive, they're eligible for the 7 years if you approve it. And the 7-year time frame starts from when they get their CO or when they start operating, I believe. So they're not penalized for the interim gap. So they're under construction for 12 months. It doesn't make sense to give them that one extra year there. So it would start once they begin operation.
I see.
Does that answer?
That
Yes.
does. It does. Mr. Hammond,
Mayor, on this, I'm assuming we still need to make a motion for that. I would make a motion, we approve the consideration that, in regards to the hotel incentive application.
all right, thank you, Mr. Jordan. We got a properly seconded motion to approve the hotel incentive application for this hotel. Is there any discussion? There being none, all in favor, please indicate your approval by showing your hand. Motion carries unanimously. Item B, this would be Ms. Hyman, consideration of Waccamaw Economic Opportunity Incorporated Head Start, Early Head Start Bus Driver Training using city property.
Yes, good afternoon, Madam Mayor and Council. As you said, this is a request from Waccamaw Economic Opportunity Incorporated, the Head Start, Early Head Start Bus Driver Training. And we have two folks from the program here with us tonight that can answer any specific questions that you may have. But basically, they have asked to use the paved area in the back for bus driver training. Your paperwork said this was begin in October 2023. I believe that's a typo, and it would be October 2022 through March 2023. It would be Monday through Thursday, 9 to 2 p.m., about an hour and a half per student. As you can see on the map, there is a large paved area at the back of the school. It actually was previously used by Horry County Schools for bus driver training. They said it worked great for that. Currently, as you all know, and as Mr. Todd mentioned in public input, there is an RFP, a request for proposals out for the development of this site. Submittals for that are due no later than December of 2024. However, as you know, the city could enter into an agreement before that. So staff's recommendation for this would be to recommend approval of the property for the bus driver training, as long as we get a certificate of liability insurance and have the understanding that if something happens on the site prior to that, that they would have to work obviously with the group.
Yes, ma'am. I move that we do exactly what you said,
Okay.
which is to approve use of the site with the requirement that there be liability insurance and that they understand that things may pop up that may end the term during which that's available. Is there a second, Mr. White? There properly second motion. Is there any discussion before we move further? There being none, all in favor, please show your hand. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Great, thanks. I'll get with you tomorrow on that. Thanks.
Item C, consideration of transfer of tangible property from Grand Strand Water and Sewer. Mr. Rogers.
Good afternoon. A group of state officials and concerned citizens has approached the city of Conway regarding the salvage of a locomotive that's been abandoned along the Waccamaw River to the south of the city for about 100 years. This group would like to see the locomotive restored and moved to a location where it can be displayed for the public. The locomotive currently sits along the edge of property owned by Grand Strand Water and Sewer Authority. Thus, they have a claim to it as a piece of tangible property. Another entity will be required to take ownership of it to allow restoration work to commence. And various community partners have agreed to donate their efforts to move and restore the locomotive. The city's in a position to assume ownership, which will require little upfront cost other than putting it on our insurance. However, there are no guarantees that the donation of the restoration work will materialize. So we're bringing it to you for your consideration of if we want to take ownership of it.
All right. And assuming we're talking about the city of Conway, Mr. Hyman.
Mayor, I was just gonna say that I did meet with this group. There are legislators involved with it, county council, county officials. It's kind of a situation where if the city controls this, we get to put it where we want to. And really and truly, there's no better place to put it than down where our mill used to be. I've talked to a bunch of people and apparently this ran to that mill. And I can't think of a better way to honor the memory of our forestry roots than something like that. I've also talked to a couple people, or quite a few people who is it Blackwater Crane?
Yes.
They're
They've
the
offered
ones
to
who
move it.
took all the boats out of the river. They have said that they will move it and have it waiting on us if we want them to. And that's at no cost. So they will have it barged here. And we can, it's my understanding, keep it potentially at our shop for repairs. That way it's not just an eyesore somewhere.
And the historic value of this also is tied to the uniqueness of its engine. I believe I remember.
Yeah, so it's a Whitcomb.
Yeah.
Steam, they were one of I think they were the first ones to do a diesel engine instead of steam. It's a much smaller locomotive than what you would have for passenger cars. They were used for mining and for timber. And so the rails that are on that there, when I was a kid, there was still rails there. I don't know if there's any.
How old are you? I'm joking. I'm joking.
42. But I've heard my dad talk about it, my granddad talk about it. It's been there for quite some time. But I can remember as a kid, it was much further from the river, but I think with the flooding, the river's changed that bend and it's getting closer and closer to falling into the river. So I think that's the main concern is that if it does that, then we'll potentially lose a part of our history.
Is there sharing between the various entities that have been mentioned, just in terms of the costs involved in either the movement and or restoration of the
Movement, I
locomotive?
think I don't think there's going to be any cost. Restoration, I don't know what the cost would be because we don't. The way we.
I'm just asking though, is there going to be?
It's not restoration as in to restore it so it can run.
Right, yeah, of course that.
To restore it to what it would have looked like.
Right.
So there would be some cost. I talked with Danny Jones. He's with Jones Metalworking. He was super excited about it. Offered to volunteer on some of the metal fabrication if need be. He's located in Conway. He's a business in Conway too. So I thought that was really neat.
But there's been no discussion about cost sharing. Okay. All right. We have a motion on the floor, I believe. Do we not? Okay.
No, I was just giving basic, but I'll
Okay.
make a motion that we approve. Grand Strand has already voted, their board has already voted to allow someone, whether it be the county or the city. The county has said that they are fine with it being us, but they kind of want to be a part of it as well. So I would make a motion that we approve the transfer of the engine to the city of Conway.
Okay, Mr. Goldfinch.
I'll second Mr. Hyman's motion and just add, if it's from a cost standpoint, if somebody's willing to get it to us and, it turns out to be something that we just can't do, then you haven't lost anything.
All right, we can transfer the property to somebody who
But
can afford it.
what am I looking at? It looks like no choo-choo train I've ever seen. What am I looking?
And it's a small locomotive. It's not anything big. But one thing we did budget a good bit of money yearly for art.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. It could be, some of that money could be used if we were going to do some kind of a.
Right. And I'm not assuming that the cost of any level of restoration is going to be an issue. I just wanted to understand where we were, what might have been discussed already. No, I think they're pretty strict right now. Oh, you mean the painters? We can all do it. Yeah, so we've got about 255 people who can paint. Mr. Reggie, you with us? Mr. Jim?
We painted it black, right? All one color?
Yeah,
Done.
yeah. All right, I think I know where we are. So you've made a motion and you've seconded the motion. Is there any further discussion? There being none. All in favor, please indicate your approval with a showing of your hand. Motion carries unanimously. Item D, a discussion on redesign of Parkview Road, Mr. Rogers.
This was discussed at budget retreat and about the issues with Parkview Road. It's a city street that has caused significant safety concerns for a long time. It's directly adjacent to a neighborhood and to Collins Park. And it's primarily used, despite that, as a cut through for southbound traffic on 701 to avoid the light at 16th Avenue. And so council directed staff to look at some options to improve the safety there, and we've done that. And I want to say one thing, the item for consideration here is that we're bringing you 4 options, and we just want you to narrow it down to 1 so that we can move forward with final design. We will notify the neighbors, all that sort of stuff. So you're not approving final construction here tonight. You're just telling us which design you want us to move forward with, because there's no point in us moving forward with that level of effort on all 4 designs. So let's just pick your favorite, and then we'll come back to you with moving forward for final stuff. Option 1 would create a cul-de-sac out of the road, which would involve ending the road just before 16th Avenue. You can see it there. Traffic could still come straight down there, but would not be able to cut through to 16th Avenue. There would just be a turnaround at the end, and that would involve pretty significant construction down at the end where we have to make that cul-de-sac. And we would make it so that a fire truck could turn around there. The one issue we would have is what happens when a semi gets stuck down there. So that's one consideration for that, but there would be parking along the side of the road, and it would end in a cul-de-sac, and that would be a fairly long cul-de-sac. The second option is to basically change it to parking only. It would be sort of like it is now. One of the strange things about the road is that it's a one-way street that's wide enough to probably accommodate 3 lanes. So it feels strange as a one-way street. This would put in angled parking on the side the whole way down, and basically you would still retain the function as it is now, but it would be for only parking, and technically should not be used to as a cut through. The next option would be basically keep things as they are now and install speed tables along the length of the road. That would, its use would remain as it is now, but you would have to slow down for the speed tables. Option 4, and that would still empty out on the 16th Avenue. Option 4 is to end Parkview Road at 17th Avenue, just after the Kingdom Hole at the top of the picture there. And transform, basically right after you pass 16th Avenue, you would enter the park. You could do so by vehicle, but we would have one of our archways that we have like at the River Walk and the Garden Walk that you would have to enter. And while you would be coming down the right side of Parkview as you approach 16th Avenue, you would have to shift to the left to enter the park. So it would be impossible just to barrel straight through. The traffic, we would take kind of a chicane pattern through there, and in Conway style, we would plant trees in the way of traffic to have to go around those. So speeding through there would be virtually impossible, and it would be a fairly inconvenient cut through. And there would be angled parking on each side depending on how the traffic shifts.
I've got a couple of comments. Have we considered, I know that one of the biggest concerns on Forest View is speeding. I think it's the primary one. I haven't heard of a lot of accidents, but it's the speed with which people come by, where there are children in the park, people trying to access the park and that sort of thing. You mentioned that the street is wide enough for like 3 lanes, but you know, it's just sort of oddly not 2-way anymore. Have we considered maybe as another possibility, or maybe in sync with the one with the angled parking, actually planting trees along the length of the road to slow traffic, because it has that effect. I'll say this, I don't I personally don't think that an angled cut through is a bad thing. I think it helps to control the flow of traffic if traffic behaves itself. And that's not what's happening now. And it seems to me that if we can find a way to affect slowing traffic that still allows people that opportunity to come from North 701 and turn right on 16th Avenue, might be the direction that we'd want to go in. And I see hands on both sides. I just want to mention. Mr. Goldberg.
Mayor, I'm gonna piggyback on your points. I know we discussed this at the budget retreat and sort of never really landed anywhere. And I appreciate you all putting these different conceptual ideas in place. I think that road alleviates a lot of pressure off of 16th Avenue on Main Street. And whatever we need to do to make it safer, let's make it safer. If it's speed humps, if it's narrowing the road, I don't care. It doesn't matter. But I think that I just don't know that I'm ready to close it.
I just want to disclose I have a conflict of interest, even though I don't have a vote. I've not reviewed any of the plans prior to the meeting, nor have I had any input. Just I want to make sure it's in the minutes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I will say in our consideration, so option one, creating the cul-de-sac would effectively, that would make it impossible to cut through to 16th Avenue.
And two, I think it would make it even more impactful for those that live, adjacent and affront the road, because like you said, trucks have been coming down that road for 1,000,000 years. And, I just don't see, personally, I just don't see closing the road. Do make it safer.
Right.
Plant trees, do the parking, narrow the road, do the speed humps, like real speed humps. Just my thoughts. Thanks.
So June, if you could go to option two, this is, I think, kind of what you were thinking about, Mayor. If we just came all out with trees, we would lose 22 parking spots. So this retains parking and also brings those trees out and narrows it to one lane effectively, but it still would be a straight cut through.
Right. But I don't want the road to be just parking. But the largest point that I wanted to make is the value of traffic being able to use that as a way to avoid that sharp turn at Main and 16th Avenue and actually be able to traverse Park Hill Road and turn right. I think our goal for safety is to effectively slow that traffic. And you talked about various good ways to do that, with trees, with speed humps, with angled parking, ultimately narrowing the stretch of the road. All those things I think should work to our benefit. I, like Mr. Goldfinch, would be opposed to closing it, having it end at 16th Avenue.
So to that point, what if, and I'm just going to throw an arbitrary number out, what if every fifth parking space, angled parking space, wasn't a parking space, but a raised bed with a tree?
Yeah.
So you've got a landscape element.
Looks like number two has trees in,
It does. We could increase more of them.
Is that what that is? Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
I see. Yeah.
One of the things we were going for there was more parking, but you could significantly increase the landscaping and make it a push with the number of parking spots because they're angled instead of parallel.
How many parks are there now?
22, I believe, isn't that right, Mary Catherine?
Under that many?
Existing parking on the street went at 22 spaces. We can.
And
How many parks is that? More than 22.
Yeah, that was, I think we're pushing 50 with that.
And if we angle them, could they accommodate school buses? They still use that park a good bit.
We could make it so that school buses could be accommodated parallel in them taking up several
Maybe
spaces.
a certain end of, maybe the short end of the street, sure. But I'm extremely open to improving the safety quotient on that street.
I will make clear that options 2, 3, and 4 all do have exit traffic onto 16th Avenue. 2 just narrows it, 3 installs speed humps, and 4 makes it the feeling of being inside the park.
What if there was an option of 2 and 3 together? With the slanted parking and the speed bumps.
Yeah, we could do that too.
Well, what I prefer is the slanted parking and the trees. Big trees that will dominate that space. I mean, everything I've ever read talks about the calming nature of trees where there's vehicular traffic and it sort of a natural thing. I'm not necessarily opposed to speed humps,
I
but
was saying including the trees like that's on number 2.
so do all three.
To the speed hump at each tree.
How much does speed hump cost?
That's a Brandon question. We have.
No, the big one is pretty pricey. But I thought that, one of the reasons we don't do humps or bumps, whichever the case may be, is that we've had issues with, private motorists, doing their own damage to their vehicles, but exacerbated by our speed humps. It sounds like we've got to do them right or not do them at all. Well, I think you've heard sort of, anybody else want to sort of chime in on any of this?
Why can't we just tell the trucks, I'll put a sign on no trucks? You know, like long trucks and things of that nature down that road as well.
That don't work.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll do it anyway.
We could do speed dips. You know what a speed dip is? When you cut the road out. And there's that dip.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Now, the other option too, if
Airborne.
Homemade speed bumps.
the other option too is to, if you go to option 4, Jim, keep that. The style of having to go around, but keep it an open street with no gate at the end. We put the gate at the end to make it feel like inside the park, and you could do the same thing just without the gate and keep it an open street, but make it like 7th Avenue.
I don't understand you.
I think if you did the gate with number 2, with the slanted parking and the trees and the speed hump, that gate itself, when you come through there, is probably gonna slow people down.
Well, where would the gate be? On the 701 end?
Yes.
I see. Please help us.
Option 4. The best way to explain it is you're gonna weave through that. That is proven, traffic studies prove that that's gonna slow people down more. I know we've all been to Coastal, those massive speed humps, you go over it and then you kick it to the next one. So making people weave through, kind of Beatty Street where the trees and all that's in the middle of the road. Nobody's going 80 through there that I've seen. Maybe cops have, but I've not seen it. But, and Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, but, and jump in, but the traffic studies seem to show, excuse me, the weaving through creates, people are going to slow down more because you're constant. That was one of the big designs with the new Chick-fil-A road, was having curves in it, because that straight line, even with speed bumps or humps, whatever you want to call them, people are still they're gonna move pretty good.
Yeah, and the only fault I find with option 4 is that piece that says it ends Parkview Road at 17th Avenue.
We could take that out. We could leave it open, kind of this design, but we would kind of need to figure out the design so the school buses can fit through, or if Reggie needs to go through, or Chief needs to go through with a fire truck, we can kind of work those curvatures through there to where.
I think we're at a point where you've heard generally sort of what sounds favorable to us, and maybe you can refine the options and maybe limit them to just a couple, now that you get a sense of where we're coming from.
I think what I'm hearing, just to clarify, is option 4 as an open street with the trees.
Well, I don't want to say option 4 because I don't even know. I mean, I'd have to take notes on each one, but
We will,
but the utilization of curves, trees, whatever
Right.
might naturally slow the traffic,
Yeah.
which is ultimately the goal.
Okay.
And
I think we got an understanding on that, so.
sure. And speaking of neighbors, I just happened to see one. I hope I'm not out of order. Mr. Seville. Has anything you've heard make any, does it rub you in a positive or negative way?
Main Street all the way back. You shut us down. You got to do something that bad. You can't hardly do anything. You can't go. But there are cars in the street. And I think the city's on the way with a really good job. But they can't control their street. You know, we have more. I'm mistaken, I think it's sign that it is.
Right.
You know, we need to stop. But that farm is utilized. We're trying to. Leaving. And I think it's great, you know, the problem, the duties and stuff. And you're right, but that's. They use a lot, especially like. I love it. Never been. Well, we need to do something. I like to people. I'm always. This city is. Go out there. That's. All of it. We need to plan. So I'm all there for the trees, and all there for the people. So it's pretty sure.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I just knew why you were here. Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
And we will, at a future meeting in the near future, we'll bring you back a design for final consideration.
All right, wonderful. Thank you so much, Mr. Rogers. I think you all are headed in the right direction. Item E, consideration of Santee Cooper's Evolve grant application.
This is for your consideration. This is a grant that will come with a match, so we always get those approved by council. First, they have, Santee Cooper has a program called the Evolve Grant Program, which provides upgrades for infrastructure for electric vehicles. This would be a grant for 2 charging stations at a cost of $20,000. $10,000 of that would be the responsibility of the city. So it would be a $10,000 grant that we would match dollar for dollar. And the remaining would, our portion of that would come from the hospitality fund.
Mr. White?
Move that we approve the application for the grant.
Thank you. Is there a second? Mr. Hyman?
I'll second Mr. White's.
Properly seconded motion to approve our applying for Santee Cooper's Evolve grant. Is there any discussion? There being none, all in favor, please show your hand. Motion carries unanimously. And item F, consideration of a donation of funds to a father's place. Mr. White.
I didn't know I was supposed to do this. I also thought there was somebody else named White that was gonna do it.
The black man.
Anyway, last week, the mayor brought a presentation to the council about making a donation to the Father's Place. What? I'm sorry. What we, can I say we now that I'm on the board? Okay. What we're trying to do is get a grant, and the grant was for $100,000 and we were needing $6,000 to be able to get in the running for that grant. So
It was matching funds.
yes,
that
so
were
we were asking the cities, all of the cities to make a donation. Some of them have, some did not. And I did want my city to be one of those that did make a donation to it if possible. So we're asking for a donation of whatever you would love to make, a specific amount.
Mhm.
Between, let's say, up to $1,000.
Let's go ahead.
What if, I'll make a motion, but what, can I ask a question?
Yes,
first?
absolutely.
Mr. White, I don't think there was any question that was you. What have other cities given?
Atlantic Beach is given 500. Loris 1,300. And I'm not certain, and Myrtle Beach gave something, but I'm not certain the exact amount.
And you're asking for $1,000?
Mhm.
Well, I would move that we grant that request. I've worked with them a little bit, and just to see some of the young men that come, not always young men, sometimes older men come through there. It has a direct positive impact on our community, and so.
Mr. Jordan.
I will say about there.
We have a properly seconded motion that the city of Conway donate the sum of $1,000 in support of a Father's Place opportunity to apply for grant funds that would require matching funds of $6,000. Is there a second? No, I'm your second. I'm second. Any further discussion?
Just once.
I was. That you get fair.
Did I take your second?
Yes.
It's stolen.
I stole it. Well, I wasn't doing a second. I didn't mean to do a second. I was just restating what it was that we were, my intent was to just restate what it is we're approving. Does everybody know what we're voting on? All right, very good. All in favor? Council, please raise your hand. Thank you so much. And the motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much. We're now at the point of being able to pay close attention, respectful attention to our illustrious city administrator for his report.
Good evening. First, I want to update you on the progress at the terrace. The brickwork is almost completed. The grading should be finished this week along with the brickwork, and the turf is scheduled in roughly 2 weeks. We've ordered the arch entrances and we're working on the light poles and hanging baskets. The goal is still September for completion, with the first event on October 8th. At the last meeting, I told you about the partial collapse of the seawall at the marina. It has now been completed. It looks fantastic. Thank you to Federal Marine for their quick work, jumping in and doing the emergency repairs and then doing the actual repairs at the end. And additionally, that was insured under our NASC policy. So we've already received the check for the repairs. That never works that fast. Wow. So Lee Hendrick spearheaded that part. So thank you, Chief Hendrick. The new road behind Walgreens and Chick-fil-A is ahead of schedule. All the stormwater infrastructure is installed. We passed the subgrade compaction test last week, and we're currently putting down base material from 16th Avenue to I think that's Mill Pond in my notes here. I wrote the wrong thing. And we hope to be ready for curb and gutter within 60 days and asphalt within 90.
Wow.
So that's very, very positive as well. We do have another dive-in movie. I mentioned this at the last meeting. It is August 26th at 7:30. The movie is Encanto, which is Kathy Ropp's favorite movie. It is free for members of the Sports and Fitness Center and only $2 for non-members. Welcome back to school for the students and teachers today. Just be aware of a new change in your traffic patterns in the morning. It's been a couple months since we've had all those people on the road and doing things that they don't really know what they're doing yet either. So expect there to be weird traffic around the schools. Also, don't forget that Fridays are Tiger Fridays, so we're green and gold for our Conway Tigers. Coastal's back in session on the 24th. Move-in day is this Thursday and Friday, depending on where you are in campus. So get ready for a lot of activity around Coastal as well, including additional pedestrian traffic. I mentioned this at the last meeting, but to repeat it, there is a litter cleanup event scheduled for this August 25th, for the August 25th at the town green, beginning at 10:30. It is only a 1-hour cleanup, so you will not get too overwhelmed by the heat of August 25th. At the last meeting, I told you about the Laurel Street fountain being painted white by mistake. I was not a fan at that time. However, it was filled with fountain on the Tuesday after the council meeting, and it looks pretty amazing. The reflection of the water up on the fountain changes its color, and I've been won over. So if you haven't had a chance to see it, go see it with water in it and see what you think, and we'll see how it goes from here on. We do have a number of roads that are scheduled for resurfacing this year. We were able to get confirmation from our contractor that those resurfacing projects will begin in mid-September, weather cooperating. The first two roads on the schedule are Wild Wing Boulevard and Shakora. So hopefully we can get some of those things going before the cold snap this winter stops resurfacing and slows us down. On Wednesday, all of our department heads will take part in a unique emergency drill. Chief Hendrick will lead us in a day-long scenario during which we'll prepare for a hurricane approaching the coast. We do a lot of training on hurricanes. We do a lot of real-world training in hurricanes. Usually when Chief Hendricks does a drill, we end up having the event that he drills. So let's knock on wood that our being prepared this Wednesday will not result in another real-world experience. But it does, we do have new staff join us every year. And if we don't do this training, there are going to be those that are not prepared for what hits us. So we do expect and prepare for a hurricane every year and for flooding every year. And it makes it all the more sweet when we don't have it because we're prepared for it. And then finally, we've got department head updates from Jeff LaValle and Roseanne Dates, unless there are any questions for me.
Thank you so much. In which order?
All right, Jeff, you want to go first?
We don't do ladies first. Oh, I see. I was just messing with you, by the way.
Not as tall as Adam. Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. Brief update on what we've been doing over the last 6 months. We finished our new data center install that handles pretty much all the computing power for the entire city, email databases, everything. As part of that upgrade, we also added redundancy in our network switches and our firewall. So we no longer have a single point of failure there. We're currently in the process of upgrading all the operating systems that are running on that new data center equipment to serve a 2019 from 2012 due to the end of life of that operating system coming up in 1 year's time. On the city camera systems, we've added over 30 cameras throughout the city. We include coverage at grounds and maintenance, Public Works Admin Building, City Court, complete coverage of Riverfront Park, the City Hall Garden, the Garden Walk, and Teal Alley. I got some pictures for you. I think it's the up button. Yeah, there's one. This is Riverfront Park. Another shot of Riverfront Park. We got 7 cameras covering the entire park, front to back. Here's our Scarborough Alley and Teal Alley.
Looks like you can see whatever happens.
Yes, and some of these were as a result of Teal Alley, for example, is a result of the business owner next door asking for it because people were going in there and they're leaving trash behind. So we went ahead and got that coverage in there. We've added new outdoor Wi-Fi to the entire town green, as well as the terrace behind the town green. So we have public Wi-Fi covering that entire area and the new terrace all the way to the water tower for the public to have while they're out there and enjoying their shows. We just completed our 3rd quarterly email phishing campaign. The results continue to trend lower. The current test had a 3.9% failure rate. The previous test in February was 4.5%. And prior to that one was 7.3%. So the results are trending down, showing that the security awareness training that we've been doing is paying off. And lastly, I'd like to welcome Marcus Cohen. He's our newest IT support tech. He started today and he'll be primarily focused at public safety.
Is he with
No,
us?
he's not here. I didn't make him come. On his first day.
Not on
I
this
didn't
first day anyway,
Any questions?
as nice as we are. Any questions? Thank you for all you do, Jeff. On a serious note, we don't know what we'd be without you. Thank you. Mistakes?
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. So my last report was way back in October 2021. Since then, we've received 8 awards totaling just over 1.1 million. I submitted 13 proposals totaling 3.6 million. We're still waiting to learn the status of about 2.4 million of the grants that were submitted. We did receive a large grant award in November. The Rural Infrastructure Authority awarded us just over $1 million for the Crabtree Forest Main Park Hill Pump Station project. That is going to be combined with our EDA grant award. So there's roughly about $7.1 million going towards that project in grant funding. We did receive notification from SCEMD a few weeks ago that FEMA had selected Chestnut Bay for further review for our brick grant, finally. Last week, SCEMD told us that in the next few months, FEMA is going to be requesting more information from us as they complete the review. It doesn't mean that an award is definite, but it looks favorable. So there's still some hoops to jump through. We'll just have to see what FEMA requests from us. This is a very busy time right now with lots of federal grant opportunities, mostly through ARPA funding. So we're working on 2 large grants right now from RIA and the SC Office of Resilience for stormwater projects. Those are going to be due, excuse me, those are going to be due in the next month. And other than that, there's lots of new grant opportunities, mostly again, coming through federal ARPA funds that are being announced daily almost. So I expect to be busy at least through the fall.
Thank you for all you do. I remember when the city, and it wasn't so long ago, when the city had not yet hired its first grant writer. John Rogers came in and proved his worth in a matter of days and expanded that work that brought you in, and your success is our success. And we thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
Is that the end of your report, Mr. Emmerich?
Yes, that concludes my report.
Thank you so much, Madam Clerk. So you haven't given me a hint in a while, so I don't know which end I should start for council input. Thank you so much. I thought as much, but I wasn't sure about that. You might want to leave me a note or something. And so now we'll have input from our council members. Ms. Helms.
I just want to say that I've had a lot of calls about the flags on Main Street for Conway. They were real excited and they do look great. So Conway won their jamboree Friday night. That was cool. I sat on the wrong side, unfortunately. However, they still won. And I went to the police and the sheriff. Our city police had that national night out. I went to that at Smith Jones. I had a real good time. It's fun watching the kids play and dance and sing, and I didn't dance, but anyway, it was fun. I
You
enjoyed
should
it.
have.
And again, thanks for everything everybody does. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Helms. Mr. Hyman.
Mayor, very little tonight. I do again want to congratulate Ms. Jefferson. That's something that I know this is a small room and we try to do as much as we can here and make her feel as proud as we can, but that's an amazing thing that she did. It's not something, we've certainly had athletes that have succeeded and excelled before, but I don't know about on that stage. So that's really, really awesome. And other than that, just want us to be mindful, as Adam said, about a lot of the kids going back to school. If my kids are any indication of how kids are, just because they are walking down the street doesn't mean where they're going. They know where they're going. So be careful driving because they will walk out in front of you. So again, kind of like what Adam said about traffic being backed up and what Mike said. I noticed it this morning too, probably worse than I can remember on Elm Street and then also on 12th Avenue. So I'm sure it's going to take some getting used to, but we can just be careful with all the students moving back.
Thank you so much. Mr. White.
Just a question. Do we have an update on Smith Joint Pools?
No, there will not be an update until we have one. We still don't have a pool contractor. There is our RFP out. We are hoping to get a bidder this time, but until we get one, I'm not gonna keep updating it.
That's it.
Thank you, Mr. White.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Mr. Jordan.
I'll just piggyback off of Mr. Hyman. For, the congratulations for Melissa. That is an incredible feat. I mean, I watched this girl run and it's amazing. And then also with the schools, remember our kids and teachers and that traffic pattern. That was a nightmare at Conway High School this morning. This daddy was not prepared for his first drop off for high school, but Mr. Prosser made that drop off a little easier. Riley talked about that from your point until the drop off. So thank you for that. And that's all I have there.
Thank you so much. Ms. Butler.
I just want to take a minute to thank all the organizations who did the back to school events this past Saturday to help our kids get prepared. There were several around the city. So I definitely want to take the time to thank them for getting our kids ready. Again, there are some traffic issues with the back to school. I know at Conway High School, we're having construction done at Conway High School, so that causes some backup on 501. So hopefully, as things get better with our construction at Conway High School, the traffic will also get better. Also want to follow up with Melissa Jefferson and the Coastal Carolina Track and Field Program. Melissa did a fantastic job. She is actually not the only Coastal Carolina athlete who went to the World Championships. So that whole program has done a phenomenal job. Definitely proud of Coastal, definitely proud of those young ladies who competed at the World Championship. They have an under 20 World Championship that Coastal had another athlete was able to compete there. So big shout out to Coastal and their track and field program. That's it.
Thank you so much. And I'm just going to take my moment to thank our city employees. I've said aloud to a couple of you how important you are to everything we do, but I mean that for each one of you. We have got still the best staff I can imagine. Mr. Prosser, I understand that you had a close call with an automobile doing your work on Church Street last school term. Please be careful. We want to have you here with us. And absolutely. The traffic gets better, people adjust. It's new as if it's never happened before, but all of us know that it happens this time in August every year, that people have forgotten directions and what time they need to leave home to get to school on time. So but we just have to be alert to what's going on around us. I believe that's enough said. And with that, we are planning to go into executive session, the purpose for which is a consideration of appointments to boards, commissions, and committees pursuant to South Carolina Code Section 3470A1. B, a discussion of investment opportunities incident to contractual negotiations pursuant to South Carolina Code Section 3470A2. We will reconvene from executive session. We may take action once we reconvene for either or both of those considerations, and we will adjourn afterwards. We will entertain a motion to go into executive session. Mr. Hyman.
So moved, Mayor.
A second, please, Ms. Butler. I have a properly seconded motion to go into executive session. All in favor, please indicate by showing your hand. Motion carries unanimously.